This is KK Arvo of KK Arvo Psychotherapy. In December 2023, after a particularly vicious period of domestic abuse by psychologist Vuorivirta, I was forced to begin begging for the return of my belongings and documents. Via SMS, via email, and ultimately public begging and humiliation via email and telephone, begging for my belongings and documents back, and a resolution to the contract fraud Vuorivirta had subjected me to. This went on for months. Months of public begging and pleading. I wrote to Vuorivirta's psychotherapist colleagues at Arvo to try and get my belongings and documents back. I reasoned there must be a grown-up in the room who could mediate this situation and get my belongings returned to me. Surely amongst a group of psychotherapists there had to be. Vuorivirta's psychotherapist colleagues at Arvo ignored the begging and pleading. Apparently that's perfectly normal and acceptable abuse for a psychotherapist colleague to inflict on someone. Throughout the period of December 2023 into March 2024, and then part of and actually ongoing into April 2024, Vuorivirta embarked on a sustained defamation campaign of either lying about me not being disabled or trying to weaponize my being disabled as a part gaslight excuse as to why she refused to return my belongings and would threaten to destroy my belongings. Day after day, email after email, I begged for my belongings. Nothing. Silence. Prolonged silent treatment in response to basic requests for the return of belongings and documents. Narcissist 101 stuff. In December 2023, from around, I believe, the 18th of December onwards, Vuorivirta began to gaslight me that rather than having a response to the severe domestic abuse that was happening, including punitive starvation, that I was in fact in psychosis. This is a lie Vuorivirta told others too, including the Helsinki police. At the same time, Vuorivirta was sending me SMS messages where she admitted that the abuse was calculated, timed, the absolute worst time to cause me the most damage. No one believed me, especially not the Helsinki police, even when presented with an SMS from Vuorivirta saying she had calculated the abuse for the worst possible time to get maximum effect. In order to pervert police complaints filed against her, and to prevent and otherwise obstruct legal action against her, Vuorivirta briefly made contact to cover some of her contract fraud and financial domestic abuse. This contact was also spurred by the fact that Vuorivirta had been publicly notified that a last will and testament document she was the sole benefactor in had been rescinded. Vuorivirta, that renewed contact, was deeply concerned about other probate documents in other jurisdictions, wanting to know the location of them and what they contained. A strange obsession. During that time, for reasons I do not understand, as I do not understand how narcissists think, Vuorivirta told me she was inflicting the abuse in collusion with others, and referenced her Helsinki University law student patient, Valu, aka Lumoj, whom she had forced into my life. Throughout this time, Vuorivirta constantly reiterated to me how her colleagues at Arvo thought I was a terrible person. On the 3rd of April 2024, in Signal chat and in later recorded phone conversation, Vuorivirta calmly and coldly explained to me that all the abuse, every day of it, every second of the enforced pleading and begging for my documents and possessions was all deliberate. Every single moment, the isolation, the meddling with friendships, the slander, the defamation, the threats to destroy my belongings and documents, property deeds, the obstruction of legal cases, the financial fraud, the contract fraud, the perjury, everything was deliberate. The watching me beg and plead in public emails for my belongings and documents. All of it premeditated. A conscious, deliberate decision by Anna Vuorivirta, who remarked coldly that she knew how much I must be suffering. In the context of my severe post-traumatic stress disorder and the previous comments by Anna Vuorivirta regarding controlling whether I lived or died, as my ex-partner, Anna Vuorivirta's intimate knowledge of the likely effects of such an acute application of chronic stress would do to me. Result, and which it would result in my death or suicide. In shock, I made a couple of jokes about Anna Vuorivirta essentially admitting to deciding to murder me. Anna Vuorivirta laughed, or sent laughing emojis. It was funny to her. My observing that Anna Vuorivirta had tried to murder me was funny. The abject suffering and horror of gaslighting, slander, and financial domestic abuse that she put me through for months. The destroyed relationships. Everything. Of trying to prevent the horror of trying to prevent the loss of my belongings in Ireland due to her contract fraud. Or of trying to get my belongings back from Anna Vuorivirta in Finland. All that begging and pleading and sending emails and asking outside parties would they ask her for my things. All of that stress and horror. It was funny. Not only was it funny, but Anna Vuorivirta informed me that she knew the suffering it was inflicting and decided to do it and continue doing it, essentially to achieve maximum suffering. Not only was I and my psychiatrist, Dr. Veli-Matti Kauppamaki, and the doctor at Hartman Hospital correct that I did not have psychosis, but that I was reacting to severe multi-level domestic abuse, coercive control abuse, power and control, narcissistic abuse. But at that bizarre moment, when Anna Vuorivirta decided to tell me it was all abuse, directly inflicted on purpose, to plan, that there was no mistake. It revealed everything Anna Vuorivirta had said to the Helsinki police as a lie. Every counter-police complaint as fraudulent. It revealed that Anna Vuorivirta had lied to the Helsinki police about my being in psychosis to try and harm me. It revealed that Anna Vuorivirta had been trying to gaslight me into believing she was not abusing me and I was in psychosis, which is particularly insidious. It revealed every email Anna Vuorivirta had sent during that period as aggravated fraud. It also revealed that Anna Vuorivirta had lied to her colleagues at Arvo. However, that does not matter. These people watched a disabled person beg for the return of their belongings and documents for months, months on end, and watched in silence as their colleague Anna Vuorivirta tried to turn the screws tight enough so that I would commit suicide, or as is the case of the fraudulently called in wellness check, wind up dead, seriously injured, or falsely imprisoned based on Anna Vuorivirta's lies. 4 months KK Arvo watched a disabled person beg for the most basic thing, the return of their belongings and documents. 4 months. And ongoing now, as everything has not been returned. And even during that period, Anna Vuorivirta sent public emails saying she'd posted documents, but it was just a lie. Nothing, only a fragment had been posted. 4 months, and now again ongoing. There was like about a 2-week break. 4 months. I hope I have now spelled it out quite clearly, Detective Katariina Rinne. This is an advertisement for KK Arvo psychotherapy. While Anna Vuorivirta has never been my psychologist, I hear they're great people who care. 4 months, then 5 months. 4 months, then 5 months, and ongoing. Just watching.